Alright, what up? Let's see if this works first, but I'm going to be doing a bit of a run through of the actual mix session that I used for the Partum Vita Mortem album. And I'm going to run through some of the stuff on Karma Favours the Weak, seeing as that's one of the songs in our top voted songs. And I guess I'm just going to run through a couple of cool little things, let you guys hear some of the actual individual elements that went on in the mix process. And yeah, just let you hear some of the cool little layers that, in the mix may not be something you notice as easily just because it's all sort of happening at once. So let's just make sure this is all working first of all. All right. That looks good. All right. So first things first, we'll just play through the intro a little bit, let you guys hear it all, and then we can run through a couple of cool things.
Direction in their eyes, infinity for predetermined line that's set in the mind.
Alright, so first thing opening this up for the first time in a long time, is I just realized there was those little whisper vocals in the first verse. So you can see here I've got the main vocal growls and then these three tracks, so have a listen to them.
Failing to see direction in their eyes, infinity for a predetermined line that's set inside the mind.
Ooh, my diction was horrible back then. But yeah, so in that first part where everything's just laid back, there's those extra little bits of vocals just sort of filling out some space. There's one main vocal line of growls that goes into a double after everything kicks back in. I prefer the sound of my vocals doubled. It's something I do with a lot of clients as well in the studio. If you're doing growls, I like the effect. I like the sound of it. Everything just feels a bit more full, a bit more smeared, but in a good way. As long as you're tracking tightly, and yeah, I feel like I did a pretty decent job on that. Yeah, so just to show you those two together.
Uncanny confusion, pictures collide. Coalescence of vital falsity seen.
Yeah, and it's like sort of just a lower volume track, as you can see up here. It's not really meant to be the same volume, it's just meant to bolster the main vocals. So let's have a look at a couple of other things. So the bass tone, I was actually pretty happy with the bass tone on this one. A very Fender bass tone there, which I love. So that's cool. Rhythm guitars came out pretty chunky. They were smoother on this album than on Where Your Sins, and a lot of that was to make space for the keys and vocals, especially on this album with the way the tonality of it went, being the concept all the way through. So that was something we tried to be aware of with the guitar tone as well. Not to just make it a super, super aggressive guitar tone that was going to eat up all the space. Yeah, pretty chunky. Let's have a listen to some of Matt's drumming. Actually, one thing I really do like on the album is the sound of the toms. So I just want to go through that. Funny thing about this solo is this sweeping section that comes up. I just did it in the pre-pro. Kez was busting my chops to do something, I guess, a little bit more impressive on top of the real melodic part in that solo. So I just ripped out this sweep part, and when it came to recording time, I just couldn't get it to sound as good. And so we kept the DI, and this is why we always take DI signals from our guitars, just in case you stumble across some magic and then, you want to keep it. I took the DI from the pre-pro just for those sweeps, so I'll just play it with the rhythms and the leads on that one. It's just one of those like stupid 5-string sweeps and then like double tap slide stuff. I can do it better live now, which is fine, but at the time of recording it, it was actually pretty challenging. It's a couple of cool little harmony bits in that solo too, actually. Probably still one of my favorite solos that I've written, so I guess I can thank Kez for making me challenge myself a bit on that one. Another thing, and I know a lot of people tend to stray away from talking about it and whatnot. I'm open when it comes to tuning and stuff like that with clean vocals. I think a little bit of tuning's sometimes the difference between a really good take and an amazing take. And yeah, there are other times when it can save an average take and make it come out really good. When we went into PVM, Karma Favours the Weak was actually the first song that we considered putting cleans over. I actually sent the guys a quick demo of the chorus and was just kind of like, hey, what do you reckon if we put some cleans in? And it was very opposite to what we'd done up until that point. And surprisingly, I guess, the guys were really keen on it. So that's kind of where my clean vocal adventure started, and I really started taking it seriously. The only downside is it really was early on for me in what I was doing with clean vocals, so the takes were not amazing, and I'm happy to be honest about that, because at the end of the day, we really wanted to get the point across with this album. We really wanted to make sure whatever was intentional, or what was intended vibe-wise and feel-wise, we really wanted to capture that. And for me, I was totally okay with being like, hey, you know what, if I have to tune it a bit and I have to spend some time getting those takes to sound the way I want because I'm not quite there, then that's fine, because I don't want to skip out on putting something that means a lot to us on the album and for it to be executed a certain way, just have to pull that back because, you know, I wasn't quite there at the time. So trying to imagine the chorus to Karma Favours the Weak without those cleans at this point, I feel like would detract so much from the song. So I'm just going to play it with the clean vocals on their own during the chorus. And then, where's that growl line? There's growls in there as well. But here are the main clean lines. There's 5 layers all up. So it's basically like 2 harmonies, a low octave, and the 2 mains. Usually I do a bit more these days with big anthemic parts like this. But so here's how it sounds. And you can probably hear the tuning more clearly without the context of the mix around it. But at the end of the day, it's not something you can hear in the mix, and no one's listening to these stems except for situations like this. So.
Covered in white from head to toe, tied to your fears and don't let go. Fate's not here to show.
It's not really that clear how much is there, but I know where I was at sort of at that time, so I guess I could hear it a bit more. And here's with the growls, which, you know, add just so much depth and character to the section.
Covered in white from head to toe, tied to your fears and don't let go. Fate's not here to show. The pathway and the coward. This empty conscience was burned bright. Necessity's meant to be its guide. Now you see the Karma Favours the Weak.
Something I pick up on immediately listening to this back is just how like gargly and wet my vocals were at the time. Since PVM came out, which is like 5 years ago now, I definitely went into a lot more intense vocal training with my teacher Alana Kay, who's an incredible vocal coach, and I kind of reworked how I do my growls. Not necessarily did them from scratch, but I kind of reshaped the technique I use so that it's, one, easier, less taxing when you're going between cleans and growls live, but also gives me a lot more control. And I could hear in some of these takes where that gargly throat sound that isn't sort of like, the sound is the sound of not having quite the control there that I do now, but it's kind of cool listening back to that and just sort of hearing it in that context. Let's have a listen to a couple of things Kez is doing. Kez really filled this album with a lot of great keyboard parts. A lot of them really do sort of complement the section, and although you can't hear every section super clearly because there's just so much going on, without those parts there, everything feels really empty. So here's the intro of the song. So that sweet pizzicato sound and piano there, playing the main melody. And then when the song kicks in after the slow intro part, kind of one of those things, as soon as you remove it, it just loses punch overall. Yeah, I really like what Kez did with this song too. It's probably not the most exciting song to play on keyboard, but the arrangement's really great. I love this part. And you've got the melody guitars over that. So yeah, some really cool parts in there. I know Matt sort of mentioned before that this one's sort of a bit of a sleeper for the drums. He's not really doing anything too crazy, but there's a couple of parts where he's, it's like the blast beat section and a few other things that are kind of fun. Where is that part? Might be here. So yeah, a couple of cool little things there. I do like on the last, actually I think it's in all the choruses, but the little beat that Matt does where he throws in the little toms over that sort of big epic sort of vibe in the chorus. I really like what the toms are doing in there. And of course, this song suffers from the old cliche fade out, but it felt right. The chorus is just way too fun, and it just kind of needed to keep going. So that song definitely well deserving of a fade out. I think that's kind of the main things that are worth going through there. Some sort of extra layers that maybe you didn't quite hear in it. Some sort of little octavey bits going on. I think this would be in the chorus actually. Oh no, it's just the main guitar melody. I do really like that melody. I think that's one of the first things we wrote for the song. I wrote the opening riff and then this melody and then built the chords around it. So I quite like that part. So yeah, that was just a quick little, I guess, strip down of the mix session for Karma Favours the Weak from Partum Vita Mortem. If you have any questions, obviously comment below, and we're always happy to show you guys awesome stuff wherever we can. Cheers.